Hello and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here shortly after the Toronto Blue Jays Game 6 win over the Seattle Mariners. It is the two best words in sports, baby. Game 7. I'm your host, Zach Worden, joined as always by Jori Negin-Shecter. And before we get into it, if you're watching on YouTube, we'd love if you took a second to subscribe and leave a like. And if you're listening on the audio provider of your choice, we'd love if you left a follow and a review. Jori? Game 7, man. It's happening. Game 7 at the Dome. The first Game 7 in Blue Jays history since 1985. How are you feeling after that win?
Yes, sir. Like an episode of Sesame Street. Today's episode is brought to you by the number 7 because we are headed to Game 7. The words to describe the vibe shift on this one, don't even know if there are enough to describe it. The Blue Jays, when all hope looked lost and it felt like they had their backs against the wall and the vibes coming off the Brendan Little disaster. And I fired John Schneider last episode, and now all of a sudden, you've done it. You've gone out and you've taken the winner go home, the winner die Game 6, and you are now headed to Game 7 on home turf with a shot at the first World Series, the first American League pennant for the Blue Jays since 1993. Those words coming out of my mouth, I don't even know I can believe I'm saying them, but they are one win away from a World Series appearance.
Sorry, did you say it's like an episode of Sesame Street?
It's brought to you by the number 7.
Okay.
We're going 7.
We are going 7. And I
Well,
mean,
actually, and one more Sesame Street. Of course, Ernie, the main character.
Ernie, the main character. Yeah, what a game. I mean, the Blue Jays, I feel like this is a win that we've seen them play. A game that they've played a bunch this year where, they just kind of like just win the game, right? Like obviously, the things happened and they out homer them and they take advantage of some sloppy defense early, but they get some strong starting pitching. The bullpen does a pretty good job. Obviously, Jeff Hoffman goes 2 innings, which is something we haven't quite seen since April and May probably, but they get a really really strong all-around performance, and they take advantage of the Mariners defense, and it just feels like it was a nice tidy win for the Blue Jays. And I obviously that kind of starts with Trey Yesavage. Obviously, this kid is 22 years old, and like I think when you step back and you look at the role that he holds on this Blue Jays team right now, it's really incredible, right? Like this is a guy that we were talking about in March about, wow, he looks so good at the spring, what do they call it? The spring breakout game. It was the first taste of Trey Savage in a Blue Jays jersey we got was this season, him pitching in a spring breakout game. And now he's pitching in game 6 of the ALCS, looking strong, looking good. He goes 5 2/3, like he's an out away from pitching 6 innings. He sets the record for, I think it was most strikeouts by a Blue Jays pitcher through the first 3 playoff starts with the organization, and that's a little
Fun
cherry
with numbers.
picking. But I mean, at the same time, like this kid, it's a 22-year-old rookie that is doing this right now. Like I can't overstate just how impressive that him doing this on this stage, especially after he got hit around a little bit last time and struggled and gave up 5 runs in 4 innings. Like what a moment for him to play and perform this well today.
It tells you where the expectations are with Trey Savage right now, that he walked off the field, after Game 6, after pitching a really strong, as you said, 5 2/3. And my reaction was, yeah, he was pretty good. This is a 22-year-old rookie, basically going 6 innings with, a back against the wall game. And other than a couple of, tightrope walk innings, he gets some help. He generates the ground balls he needs to, but also was generating lots of whiffs as well. Like looked the part too, and even the hard hit balls, most of them were on the ground. Not that many like in the air. Even to me,
Oh, we'll get into the ground balls.
well, he did his part. And if there's anyone that's a story of the game, it's probably him. Although there's a couple other key
Yeah.
figures that again we'll also touch on. But for the Jays, for Yesavage to go out and be able to do this, to be able to be an important part of I mean, we're one game away from calling it a World Series, a World Series rotation. To be a key cog in that is astonishing, is incredible, is it's like that Yankees start. You don't really have the words to describe what he's gone out and done. It wasn't a dominant performance. It wasn't like an 11 strikeout performance. He wasn't, he didn't necessarily have the Mariners eating out of his palm the whole game. But you want to talk about having a strong start. This will do it. This will play.
Yeah, he gave them a chance to win. And, I think it was interesting. They talked a little bit on the at the workout day on Saturday about him kind of coming in with a different game plan. And I think that game plan was, hey, I'm not going to throw a lot of fastballs to you guys today. Like early on, it was splitter, slider, splitter, slider, splitter, slider, splitter, slider. Here's a fastball, whatever. And, one thing I thought was, well, his velocity kind of declined significantly during that last start. So, was kind of keeping an eye on the velocity numbers for him early there. And, I texted you, I can't remember which inning it was in.
It
It was
was the
probably
second inning,
probably in the
late
second
in
or the
the
third. And
yeah.
it was like he ripped off like a 91 and a 92 and a couple 92s in a row. And I was like, it kind of seems like maybe the fastball isn't going to be there for him. Maybe today, maybe going forward, like just with how much he's pitched this year, right? And obviously it's a huge talking point of how he's feeling and what his body is going to do at this point because he's never pitched this much before, right? Obviously, he's probably pitched this much before, like in high school and stuff, but these are different types of innings, right? So it's something I was watching and for him to, after I texted you, like immediately, he's like 95, 95, 95. So, he kind of quelled those concerns by, he got the velo back up and it wasn't like peak Trey Yesavage velocity that we've seen this season, but, he was living in a good spot and the splitter and the slider, I mean, we're just doing some incredible things. I mean, he got 10 whiffs on the splitter, a 59% whiff rate on, so 10 whiffs on 17 swings. Like, I mean, obviously that pitch is so good for him and, kind of his bread and butter at this point. But I think just can't say enough about like even for him to as a rookie to adjust and like kind of have a different game plan. I think was really impressive and
Yeah,
cool.
just you can clearly see even in those post-game interviews, this is a guy that's just so mature beyond his years.
What a
I
what a
mean,
quote he is. Hey, like
well, I
he's
I literally turned. I was watching the game with my girlfriend. I turned to her and I went, "This guy has a future in television." He's 22. He's got probably 10 to 15 years of baseball at a minimum. But if I was Sportsnet, I would be knocking down this guy's door to be like, "Hey,
what
well, if you
what
want if you want a career in broadcasting after the show's done, keep our name in your Rolodex here."
yeah, that's a plan for 2040. And that's hopefully a long time away. But yeah, I think Savage obviously huge moment for him. But ultimately at the end of the day, of course, he does um get fortunate, I suppose, a couple times, right? Like he loads the bases with one out in the third inning, which brings up Cal Raleigh. And I mean, if there's one guy you don't really want to be facing with the bases loaded and one out, that's kind of the guy. And obviously he throws him a splitter and Raleigh's first pitch swinging and he grounds it to Vladdy. And Vladdy's playing so deep, so he gets the time to kind of make that play on a hard hit ball and they turn the double play and Trey covers first and it's like this huge moment. The crowd pop on that was incredible. And I think too, like the Vlad thing part of that is really impressive. I think, he had Vinny Pasquantino tweeting about it.
I was literally pulling that up right now to
Yeah,
pull it
like
up.
how cool is that, right? To kind of have like other players appreciating what Vlad is doing defensively in this series. And then Trey, of course, next inning loads the bases with one out. JP Crawford comes up, and JP Crawford, he's did you see on the broadcast when they flashed his stats with the bases loaded
I actually didn't
in his
catch that.
career? So his career with the bases loaded is a 337 hitter with 6 grand slams.
So this is
Like
a guy that
that's
can get it
like
done in those spots.
kind of random, but like I mean, wow, like really impressive. And then he goes splitter in the zone, splitter in the zone, and then two strikes. He throws one low and away, and Crawford just kind of like weakly puts it out to IKF, who
And
does
we get the
his
and we get
he
the
does his
Dwayne.
best Dwayne Wade throwing a lob to LeBron tweet or image, and I mean. obviously the next inning they grounded to double play to end the inning as well. But um, first time in, I believe it was postseason history that a team has grounded into double plays with the bases loaded twice.
Yeah, that's part of me wants to say that's Trey Yesavage, doing a great job working around trouble. The other part of me wants to go, that is Mariners baseball for you, because, that's a team that has had its share of curses over the years, I feel like.
Oh,
Um, they've
jeez.
they've
That's not where I was expecting you to go with that.
we've got some Mariners fans in the comments section the last couple days. So I'd like to speak one-on-one with you Mariners fans. I'm sorry your team is so cursed, and I'm sure you guys will have a lovely 2026 because we got business to take care of in Toronto right now. But yeah, that is tough. That is that's just poor luck, just so much. But like you can't miss out on those three opportunities. And the Jays, not only did they get it done with the glove, I mean, in a way that the Mariners certainly weren't doing that. They were booting the ball all over the place. For the Jays, the sure-handedness of their defense, and that's not even, you think of the play in the outfield where Varsho backs up Barger, holding Rivas to a single. It's the Jays have just consistently been a team, and you just mentioned the Vladdy play at first, a team that has consistently shown an aptitude for strong defense, and it almost felt like a game in the Yankee series, right? Where it was a little things game. And the
Yeah.
Jays did the little things well. And the Mariners were throwing pickoffs in the left field and letting Vladdy score on wild pitches.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Mariners have been like a generally pretty clean team, I think, throughout the series, and I think, that's one of the things that's like kind of made the series so competitive, right? Is it's like it's been two teams playing good baseball. And, I don't think that the errors directly cost the Mariners the game, but it certainly hurt their chances of winning it, right? Like I think that if I had to like identify a couple moments for the Mariners that cost them the game, it's probably the third and the fourth innings when they ground into double plays with the bases loaded. Um, but overall, I mean, yeah, the Blue Jays defensively, I mean, you can't say enough about it. Like it's, we've talked about it for 3 years at this point, like probably even longer than that, with how this team has leaned into this defensive identity, but it's finally paying off because they have kind of found the offense to go with it. And after game 5, where the offense, kind of shrinks away and only scores 2 runs, the bats were back in a big way. And it's Addison Barger homering, Addison Barger with a few RBIs, he has RBI single as well. And then I mean we can start with Vladdy though. I mean like this guy is on a different planet right now. In our last episode, or maybe it was the episode before, you asked me if this was a different Vladdy. And I said that I didn't know if it was a different one or if it was, just him playing at the peak of his powers. But I think I've kind of changed my my opinion on that. I think this is a different Vlad right now. The way that he is in the box, controlling the game, like I don't think that we've ever seen him like this. He has 6 home runs in these playoffs, which ties the Blue Jays franchise record. And this is a guy who didn't have a playoff home run before this year, and he only has 2 strikeouts. Like there is just something special going on with what he's doing right now, and it's you've got people like John Heyman tweeting that he has established himself as an October star with just this 1 run. And it's just, the way that his spot in the lineup, even, like it was it the second inning where he hits the 116-mile-per-hour ground ball and Gino Suarez makes a great play. Like a
That was
terrific play.
incredible.
It
That was
probably made
almost
up for the error, right? But I mean, I would say it did make up for the error actually.
it saved at least 2 runs.
But just like Vladdy in the box right now, like how do you even pitch to him? Like there's I will say that the Gilbert pitch to him was not great, but yeah, like I don't even know what you do. Like Dan Wilson keeps on getting asked, like what do you do with Vladdy? And he's like, well, he's a great hitter. I don't know what else you want me to say.
This is from Jolly Olive on Twitter. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the third player in MLB postseason history to manage a 1500 OPS and at least 45 plate appearances in a single playoff run. The other two, 2004 Carlos Beltran and 2002 Barry Bonds. This guy is literally hitting like a World Series contending prime Barry Bonds right now. and a prime Carlos Beltran, another inner circle Hall of Famer that is not going to make the Hall of Fame for maybe a minute or two because of outside scandals, right? Two inner circle non-Hall of Fame Hall of Famers. Um, just as much as you don't have the words for what Savage is doing, you know, we are not worthy.
I mean,
Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
it's literally like the Vlad that was promised. Is it not? Is this not what all the hype was about leading into his 2019 debut? Is this not what Vladdy, the obviously, this would be very tough to sustain like over a very large period of time. But is this not the Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the star moments that were promised as he was signed as a 16-year-old and came up as the top prospect in baseball?
They don't really update Statcast pages during the postseason, but I would love to see what his Statcast page looks
Yeah.
like. Uh, you know, you look at like Aaron Judge's during the season, and it's all red, and Vladdy's is also all red, but it's not off the charts like it is right now. And is this the hottest any player has been? Literally, it seems like this is the hottest any player has ever been since the mid 2000s. Another stat here from Just Baseball. The only player in MLB history with a 10 game span in a single postseason of at least a 440 average and six homers. Oh 04 Beltran, 2025 Vladdy. Like this is an all-time playoff run. This is the type of playoff run that is going to go down, not even in Blue Jays lore, but in baseball lore. This is the type of stuff that Mr. October is made out of.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to pull up was just like looking at the best 10 game spans of Vlad's career, like regardless of, time of year or whatever. And, it's actually kind of funny. Like he has had like heaters like this before. I mean, they were pretty much all in 2021. He actually twice in 2021 this kind of it spans seasons, so I don't even know if you want to call it twice, but like only one time in his career has he ever hit more home runs in a 10 game span than he has so far in these playoffs. And I mean, when you want to look at like raw OPS numbers, like he's got a 1532 after this game. Like the number of times that he's had better 10 game stretches than that is like you can count them on one hand. So
The Vlad that
and
was promised.
there's like none of those where he's striking out as few as he has been in this one.
This is just it's there's locked in,
Yeah.
and there's, I mean, he said it himself, born ready.
I don't know how you get him out. I like right now, don't know what you do. And well, it's not getting him out though. You put him on. Um, yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I can't even, like you said, tough to really put into context, into words what he's doing right now. It's been just such a different Vladdy than we saw really all regular season, right? Like it was kind of another one of those years where you're kind of waiting for more, and lo and behold, the more has arrived in October. So, incredible stuff from him. And, I actually think the games 1 and 2 where he didn't really hit all that well. Like, imagine if he had kind of like just strung it together during those games, what the overall numbers would look like. We'll see how it goes
Bananas.
tomorrow. I mean, Kirby, they hit him around a little bit. So I think I think the Mariners staff is obviously really good. Like really, 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 really good pitching staff. And I just think that it's such an intriguing matchup between this Blue Jays team where they're putting the ball in play and they're so aggressive with balls in the zone. And this Mariners pitching staff is putting balls in the zone for them to swing at.
Well,
So
we had said before the series that the series was going to be decided between, if the Jays could outmuscle the elite staff that the Mariners have to present.
yeah.
And in the wins, that's been exactly the case. And in the losses, it generally hasn't been the Jays pitching completely imploding. They've largely kept the Mariners, I wouldn't say in check per se, but
Games,
they've more
yeah,
or less done their game two aside.
yeah.
This is it hasn't been, it hasn't been the Mariners teeing off on the Jays. Um, Game five obviously goes sideways, but for almost the entire game, it was 2-1, and I described that more as a bullpen collapse than a getting teed off on. So to me, I mean, if you want to talk about keys to victory for Game 7, it's gonna be exactly this. It's gonna be get to Kirby, hit him around, and if you're Shane Bieber, you know,
Just keep the ball in the yard. I
just
think
just keep
that's
the
it.
ball in the yard. I think it is as simple as that.
Yeah. Obviously tonight, Vladdy, not doing alone. I mean, they scored 6 runs, and Addison Barger, huge part of that, kind of his first like really big playoff game, I would say. Like he has an 892 OPS in the playoffs, so not his only playoff moment or whatever. But I think, we had talked. I can't remember which game that he homered in. Was it three or was it
I
four?
think it was game three, and it was like right
And
at
it
the end. It
was
was
it
in
was off
garbage
it was
time.
off Luke Jackson, and I was
Yeah.
probably a little bit critical, and I was like, I don't know if it's really going to mean anything, but I think his at bats were good today, and obviously he gets rewarded with the 2 hits and the homer, and his swings are looking pretty good. And John Schneider mentioned after the game that he has made an adjustment with his hands, so maybe there is a little bit something coming, a little heater coming for Barger. But I mean, for him, if you want to talk about like Trey Yesavage being a guy who started the year in the minors and found his way up to the majors. I mean, obviously, there's no more dramatic story of that than Trey Yesavage, but Barger, this is a guy who started the year in AAA and was kind of,
I think he was either the last cut or one of the last cuts from
yeah,
camp. Like this is another development win for the Blue
yeah.
Jays for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Especially the way that he looked last year too, where he didn't really have it, and he comes up and he starts really slow, right? Like, I mean, he was hitting the crap out of the ball when he first came up this year, but wasn't really getting the results. And for him to stick with it, and for him to kind of be, um, that threat lower in the lineup, I think is really big. And obviously, I think one of the funny moments from this game is obviously Ernie Clement hits the triple off the wall and the home run horn goes off. I think maybe a little bit more noticeable in the building than on the broadcast. But home run horn goes off and everybody's kind of confused what's going on. And it's all kind of funny because it all happens with 2 outs and Ernie's standing on third base or whatever. And then all of a sudden Barger, like home run horn didn't stay off for very long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was incredible. I mean, I literally think I sent you the text. I think Barger swings and misses at one of the various sliders he's prone to swinging and missing at. And the text basically reads, they really got to move Addison Barger down, and then
To be fair to you, you
like
said they should move Clement up.
I had said they got to move Clement up because you can't have. I was like, you can't have Barger hitting behind him because it's gonna. And then like I think I was like a word or two from sending that text, and then he boom just hammers the ball, and I sent the text, but immediately followed it up with, and he goes yard.
Classic you. I guess you got to send some more of those texts. But
Yeah, exactly.
I think Ernie obviously has a nice game, a double and a triple. The triple was like quite a play where I think off the bat, like you're like, man, that is launched, and then it kind of stays in. I think summer day
Well, the
roof
dome, the
open,
dome
that's gone.
closed,
Yeah.
I think was well, even with the Rivas stuff. Let's talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, I was looking again on Statcast. I think that one only gets out at Yankee Stadium and Yankee Stadium, but Razified, George Steinbrenner Field. There was one other place that it got out, but I mean, it was sitting a mile high in the air and ultimately hits the wall. And the defense again. The way to back it up and holding Rivas to a single and not letting I think it was
Crawford.
Rose was it Crawford? It was
Yeah.
Crawford keeping him at second. Um,
And
Again,
it sets up
just
that double play. So
there's really nothing more you can say. Just it was a big little things game, and the
yeah.
bombs obviously helped, but just a huge little things play. Also, something they didn't really touch on the Jays broadcast, but upon seeing the highlights and seeing the Fox broadcast, seems like they really highlighted this. So after Vladdy gets drilled, and this is related to the little thing stuff, is the when Raleigh ultimately lets the ball get past him, tries to throw Vladdy out, trying to take an extra 90 feet, and the ball sails into left field and Vladdy scores. Vladdy makes his way home, stomps on home plate, and just really kind of gives her.
I noticed
And
that, yeah.
they were saying on the Fox broadcast, "Oh, Vladdy is angry. This is Vladdy getting getting into it." And it wasn't something they really touched on in the Jays broadcast, but it was just another thing, kind of
I
just
don't
to
know if he was he
file
angry or
that.
was he just amped up?
I think he was, well, one way or another, he was amped up, and they showed a replay, and there was a nice little yell in there too. Like this was, you could tell he was amped up, and,
I
that's him taking third too. It's the same
yeah.
thing. The Superman slide in. This is a guy that
I just
was when the moment gets exciting,
yeah.
he
Well,
loves to let it
like
go.
especially like base running. Like I feel like nothing fires him up more than a good base running moment. So I
A
don't know
hundred
if
percent,
he was angry or mad at, or
exactly.
whatever. Um, Jeff Hoffman. I mean, obviously all the bullpen talk over the last few days that obviously lives on through the game five Brendan Little moment where Jeff Hoffman was in the bullpen, and he kind of comes in today and shuts all that down to a certain extent. No hits, one walk, four Ks, two innings, most pitches he has thrown since 2023, 35. Makes you maybe a little worried for tomorrow if he's kind of needed to pitch in a big spot, but he seems to be fresh right now. The velocity, again, it's not 96, 97 like it was early in the season. It's certainly 94, 95 kind of area, but I mean, on the day he gets eight whiffs, I think it was five with the slider, and maybe a couple with the splitter or whatever it was,
The
but
slider was definitely the pitch that was working, and you could see that he
yeah.
had one slider that he just totally sails.
Yeah.
But no, he's looked a lot better. I think the big thing too is obviously, one guy gets on, but by and large, the command to me feels like it's a lot better.
Yeah, he was good. He was good today. And I think it was funny after the game where John Schneider's asked, like, if you had a lead heading into the eighth, was he going to pitch two innings? And he's like, yes. Um, Dominguez was warming up in the bullpen in the ninth, so obviously they
They
were
had contingency
they
plans.
they were ready. I think it was because Hoffman was the last out of the game was eight in the Mariners lineup. So I would imagine that if J Rod had come back up, that they would have gone to Dominguez. But at the same time too, like Hoffman, was at 35 pitches, and that's something that he hasn't done this year. It's something that he hasn't done last year. He hasn't done it since 2023.
Yeah.
So
You know what I wonder is, you think that we see like a Kevin Gosman,
yeah, 100%.
yeah.
I think that's why you do that today, is because you know that you're going to have Max Scherzer, maybe not. You're going to have
It's
Kevin
all hands on
Gosman.
deck. It's going to be all hands on
Yes,
deck.
everybody's going to be available except for Trey Yesavage, and I think
Yeah.
yeah, Gosman being available probably makes you feel like you can push Hoffman in that situation, and obviously the Mariners being so balanced, like I don't think that you're in a position where you're very concerned, especially like with the way that they've kind of switched their lineup, right? Like with J-Rod moving up and Randy moving down, like the Naylor pocket, like it's just Naylor there now, and like Crawford, Canzone, and Rivas at the bottom. I think you feel good about your better right-handers handling them instead of or you could just even like bring in a Fluharty or whatever
Exactly,
um
exactly. By the
to
way, I
handle
didn't see
that.
Fluharty today. I think that's really
Yeah.
interesting. I know he's presumably down, but just maybe there just wasn't a spot for him. They
Yeah,
ultimately, it was a
I
pretty
think
clean game, but
yeah,
definitely interesting.
I don't think there's like ever kind of a spot where you're like Fluharty should be pitching right now.
Yeah,
Varland looked good, and obviously unfortunate the Suarez like little dink single that scores Randy all the way from first. Um that gets credited to Savage unfortunately, but overall, like, yeah, I think the bullpen usage was fine today. Obviously, it's a
it's a
talking
hot
point.
topic.
Um, but no, I mean, like for you, like, was there kind of a point in the game where there was, I know we were talking before the game, like, are we going to see like a Chris Bassett or or
And
any of these guys.
I think this was a well-managed game. And, am I
That's
saying that
nice.
because they didn't do anything egregious? Sure, but you know what? Yesterday, John Schneider takes the ATV and decides to do a little off-roading and proceeds to flip over a couple times. It goes completely off the rails. Much smoother sailing today because the Jays made life a lot easier by actually scoring some runs.
Yes, it's been like you said, it's been the offense that's kind of set the tone for this series, and made life easy to for pitching decisions when the offense has scored. So obviously that's
100%.
that's what you want to continue tomorrow, where it will be Shane Bieber against George Kirby. How are you feeling about that pitching matchup?
Better than I was for game three.
Yeah,
It's two guys coming in off very different looking games. I don't think the Jays are going to get to George Kirby the way that they did in game three. I think that's a big ask. I think that's almost impossible. I'm not sure if Bieber's going to be as good as he was in game three himself. But, if you want to regress both those guys back to the mean a little bit and maybe put it at the halfway point, I think you've got exactly who you want going in game seven. I think the Mariners have exactly who they want going in game seven. And I think it's just going to be a case of whose bats do you believe in more to break through? And I think there's reason for belief for the Blue Jays.
yeah. Shane Bieber in game three, 6 innings. Sorry, 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, and 8 strikeouts. Obviously, he looked more like the pitcher that we saw when he first came back, and for him to get back on track was huge because as we said at the time, like the confidence level was shaken with him for sure. I would say after that game three. So we'll see how things kind of shake down tomorrow. I mean, I think that you're right that expecting the same results as game three seems unlikely, just the way that the series has kind of had swings and all this kind of unexpectedness to happen. But overall, I think if you're the Blue Jays, I mean, you feel pretty good with Shane Bieber taking the hill for this game.
100%. 100%.
No matter what happens, it is going to be a fun one because game sevens always are. And I'm sure the building is going to be absolutely rocking for the game tomorrow. It's going to be so interesting to see Bieber, Kirby. I mean, Brian Wu seems like he's, probably on the docket for tomorrow. I think, you look at the Jays pen and it kind of feels like Kevin Gossman's going to be in there, probably only for like an inning or so, but all hands on deck. I'm trying to think of, like who haven't we really seen kind of in this series? Like Eric Lauer hasn't really, I don't, has he even pitched in this
I
series?
don't even think he maybe pitched
He
in
did.
that
He
blowout.
pitched after Bassett did.
You
But
know what? This is it, man. This is what you play for.
this is
Game seven's
what,
coming up, and go out there and, like you said, all hands on deck.
yeah, this is what you play for. This is what everything this season has led towards. It's the division title, the season, the trade deadline, every single thing leads into tomorrow, and it is going to be fascinating. Jory, I will give you the final word. Anything that you're gonna watch for in game seven tomorrow, anything you're gonna watch for a great setup.
Well,
I'm
Shane
gonna
Bieber.
watch the game.
Shane Bieber, hoping that he is Bieber-esque, and if they can get to Kirby, then you start to feel really good about what may be coming down the pipeline into the later hours of Monday night.
Regardless of how things go, we will be back here to recap it all and cover cover off the final game of the series. It has been a very fun one, and I'm expecting a fun conclusion. So that is going to do it for us here tonight at the Bird's Eye View podcast. Thank you for tuning in, Jory. Thank you for staying up and recording this late into the morning. Make sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening along on the audio provider of your choice, make sure to drop a follow and review. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you after game 7.